Give us an insight, a little background on what had you started in real estate, and then especially what had you started Epic Capital Funds that you are now managing.
Okay. Yeah. So my first rental was purchased in 98. We turned that home into a rental. The first debt funds was in 2004, and 2004, 2008 was a wonderful ride. We were doing very well, and I thought it was because of me, and learned it had nothing to do with me at all. And I learned some hard lessons from 2008 to 2012. In fact, I ended up spending 3.5 years selling every single asset I owned to cover a personal guarantee. Went through some hard times, finally personal bankruptcy in 2011, 2012, started over. But through those lessons, learned a lot about fear and greed, the importance of market cycles, and ultimately core teams. And that's why we have such a focus on getting the right teams together. At one point in my life, I was pretty low. I went to lunch with my wife and said, there's a transition happening, and I didn't know really which direction I was going to go, and wanted to commensurate with her. And all she said was, it sounds like you need to start a gratitude journal. And that actually changed my life. So from a point of gratitude, just being grateful for everything and everyone around me, that's where Epic Capital was born. Everything we do is about helping people achieve freedom of purpose. We do that through establishing and growing passive income and wealth creation through real estate investing, both on the debt and equity side, and then through business acquisitions. Our niche is that we identify those core teams that work very well together, form partnerships around them, and go deep into their pipeline.
Very good. Wow. What was it about? So you started with your wife's recommendation, doing the gratitude journal. It sounds like it was a huge turning point for you in your life. What was it about it? Obviously, we all heard, and some of us probably do the gratitude journal, but give us an insight into that part of your turning point.
Sure. Whenever there's a lot coming at you, beginning with gratitude, what it did for me was essentially it lifted a large burden off of my shoulders where I could focus on what I was grateful for, but it gave me the clarity to work through the problems I needed to work through to get to the solutions. Had I not come from that point, I don't think I would have had the clarity of mind to be able to think. And then with gratitude, I loved how Matthew talked about bringing God into real estate. When you have that gratitude and you are willing to receive guidance and bring God into it, it makes a huge difference.
I see. So you were doing it like, was it every night, every morning? What was your routine or ritual there?
Yeah. So I started a morning routine, and there's a couple books. The 5 a.m. Club was a really big one that I loved. There's a book called The Way of the SEAL, meaning Navy SEAL, with Mark Divine. And they talk about a mind gym where you hash out the battles of life in your mind, right? But it's where you go and train. And it was setting the morning right. And if you get your morning right and you align your mind, body, and spirit, then whatever comes through the rest of the day, you have purpose behind the direction you're trying to go.
Excellent. And how long did you continue that for? Do you still do that?
This morning, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, still.
That's good.
So for not every morning, sometimes it doesn't work out quite like that, but I strive for every morning having a good morning routine and getting those workouts. But it really helps with clarity of mind, and at least once a week, getting a clarity break, stepping away and just refocusing on what's most important and what do I need to start doing or stop doing or...
That's good. Okay. I'm sure, with you having been through the last market crash and learning to navigate through that, I'm sure that plays a big role in how you're navigating through this market the last few years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So share with us a bit about Epic Capital Funds. I know you started in 2021, so that's pretty much at the peak of the market. And so you get to experience it through this challenging market that we're in. So give us some insights into why you guys decided to start Epic, and share with us about your business model, what kind of assets you look for and things like that within Epic.
Sure. We've done primarily residential real estate, both in the townhomes, single family homes, and apartments, depending on location. We've done some industrial projects, some commercial. And then as recently as January, we opened a private equity division for business acquisitions. But all of those decisions ultimately come down to how do we help establish and grow passive income and creating wealth through real estate and business. The idea of the core teams really came from that 2004 market back in the day. And my role then was I joined a company that had been around 19 years. They had a good system in place. They were pretty solid. And I was spending, I would say, 80% of my time kind of vetting deals that we were marketing. And I wasn't able to really serve all of the clients that were coming on. And what I ended up doing was reaching out to farming all of these new leads that we were paying for to someone else that could handle them. And so I identified the 5 or 6 key teams that I worked with and turned the table and said, this is our sweet spot that you can't do. Why don't you guys are taking all these leads, but I can help you in this specific area. So I stopped advertising altogether and just worked with those key teams. And within that first year, we tripled the revenue of the company because we were having those. 80% of my time was actually dealing with the customers that needed what we were looking for. And so that was where Core Teams really was born. On the efficiency side, during the downturn, when things go wrong, what makes the greatest teams the greatest is not a lack of challenges or problems. It's the capacity to deal with them. And so today, looking for those core teams that have been through hard times that we can navigate through together. And it's not about avoiding problems. It's about embracing the challenges that you're facing, but working together to get through them. But the other core team was who has access to several hundred more investors than I personally do each time. And that's why we started down the road of family offices and RIAs. And for me, the individual check sizes on the client side of the RIAs is still in that 100 to 400,000. But the RIA is allocating a large portion of their portfolio to different directions that you're wanting to go or deals. And it just made working in that team so much more efficient, where we could provide fantastic service to the RIAs and help them solve what they were looking for. And I think one of the key ingredients that, looking back, that made it so effective was we brought these family offices and the RIAs in early. Before we even created the PPM or the structure, we would bring the deal that we wanted to do, and working with them together, we structured it in a way that they knew that their clients wanted and that it made sense for us.
I want to take a step back a little bit and expand on this whole concept of the core team that you mentioned. And in our last conversation prior to this actual interview, you talked about how you used to refer clients to A's, and that's when you realized, hey, we can reverse that. I can get clients from them. So speak into that, because that gives us a little bit of background of how you got into this war of wanting to work with RIAs and leveraging those relationships.
I'm still working on trying to expand that network, and the things that work with one RIA doesn't seem to work with another. So I think it's very important to understand that it's very relationship based, and that's what builds that trust and credibility that is required. The other thing is it's very difficult to work with RIAs that are tied to broker dealers versus those who are independent. So just to be specific, we're talking about RIAs that are independent, that like alternative investments and want to participate on that side. The core team with them, I think it wouldn't have worked as well had I not brought them in early in the stage. If I just brought a deal that says, here's the terms, then they're having to decide whether or not they even like the terms, let alone the actual transaction. And so that's really been a key piece of building those relationships, is involving them early on in the discussions and making it okay to say no on a transaction. It's more about the longer term relationship and how are you going to add value. The other thing is we have a platform. We use Sponsor Cloud, Syndication Pro. And with that, we're able to create a co-sponsor instance, meaning all of the RIA's clients are completely held separate from my investors. So I never market to them, and we help keep that, I don't want to say sacred, but that their investors, we hold that. It's very important that we communicate through them for their clients and not directly to their clients. So being able to provide that has been a very important piece.
I see. How did you, begin to even find these RIAs to start building a relationship with them? What are some of the channels of how you went about it to begin to even get them on your contact list?
The ones that we've shaken hands and developed a personal relationship with have worked well. The ones that you try to market to, it's just not the same thing. There's a family office. I'm putting the family office and RIA in the same boat, and that represents about 70% of all of our investments between RIAs and family offices. 30% are direct. The times that we've been able to get the RIAs or the family office, there's one deal that we did, for example, it was 320 units and 116 homes. It was a mixed-use property. We put the pro forma together and we dialed everything back. We gave the first 2 years of 0 increase in rents, so it was flatlined. We increased the cap rate to 6 in an area where we knew we could do better than that, but we were showing that it would still pencil at values that they knew they could beat. And when they look at that underwriting, it's important for them. If they look at a pro forma and think they can do a lot better than this, that's a really good sign, because then they're interested. They know that there's something there. If they look at the pro forma and have no idea how they're going to achieve that, it's a bad sign. They're not going to be interested. And that was feedback we received directly from them, that even though you want to show these sexy returns or this massive amount of upside you can get, being real and showing, no, this is our plan and it's all based on more of a conservative approach, that's what opened the door for them, that we were real. We weren't trying to do something we really couldn't do.
I see. And you mentioned, the ones that you get to shake hands with, the best one so far. Do you meet
A personal relationship, like introductions.
Yeah, okay. So introduction. So it's not like you went to an event where there's a lot of other family offices and RIA, and then you meet them through there. It's just you get one and then they introduce you to another one and kind of word of mouth.
Yeah, it's all word of mouth. We have never done any general marketing or anything like it. It's all been relationship to relationship.
What does it take to even crack that code to begin with working with your first couple of them and then getting that introductions? What's the best way to go about that?
The thing that comes to mind is unreasonable hospitality.
Okay. What does that mean?
There's a book called Unreasonable Hospitality. It's more in the restaurant bent, and the goal to be number one in the world, you have to be unreasonable about the amount of service that you give. And in terms of the RIA, you have to be unreasonable about building credibility and providing value and service to them. If it's just a pitch, they're getting 5-6 pitches a day that they're actually looking at. Everything else is not even filtered through. So it really comes down to, what can you do to add value to them and take things off of their plate and make them look like a hero, no pun intended, but make them look like a hero and build things with them, if that makes sense.